Alright everybody, we got a super cool video here from Failed and Forgotten. Give them a sub on their page. These are 30 things from the 90s that you'll never ever see again. Oh, this is going to be a good trip down memory lane, isn't it? Let's have a look. Remember when the internet sounded like that?
Maybe you remember the old test sentence.
If you grew up in the 90s, you'll know it was a very different world. Life seemed slower, technology felt magical, and even the smallest things could bring excitement. Today, we're going to take a trip back in time and look at 30 things from the 90s that have vanished forever. All these items will hit you hard with nostalgia, especially number 16, the one thing every single movie night revolved around. Do you ever stop and wonder what happened to it all? Those little things we grew up with, the everyday objects and experiences that defined our childhoods and teen years are
Yeah, look at those though. I don't know if I'm going to assume that the Polaroid camera will get a little showcase in this video. That's kind of one of those like timeless things that comes back in and out. Like the Polaroid camera became popular, in the late 70s, early 80s, disappeared, came back, disappeared. And then I remember that was like just before like the whole Instagram craze came. I don't know if people have Polaroids anymore, but in like the early 2010s, there was like a phase where people still wanted to get those retro kind of shots in social situations with their Polaroid camera. So at least up until 15 years ago, these things were coming back in fashion. Interesting. But yes.
Almost without us noticing. So, let's see how many of these you remember. Number 30. Pagers and beepers. Before texting, beepers were cutting edge. Doctors, students, and business professionals all clipped them proudly. A buzz meant someone needed you, but unlike today, you couldn't reply instantly. You had to find a phone. It was inconvenient, but it made every beep feel urgent. The pager...
Yeah. My dad had one, being that he was a business professional. I remember he had one when I was about 3 years old. And I didn't even know what it was or really properly understand at 3 what it was at the time. But I just looked at it and thought it was the most high-tech thing and awesome. Just because I already loved technology at that age.
Was less about talking and more about importance. Now they sit in drawers, relics of a world before instant communication. Number 29, Tamagotchi. The Tamagotchi was every kid's responsibility test. These tiny digital pets needed feeding, cleaning, and constant attention. Forget for a day, and your pet died.
Yeah, it was just basically preparing teenagers for like teenage pregnancy, right? A little bit of dark humor there. But I remember this phase came when I was about in 10th or 11th grade, and like literally everyone in school had one. And if it wasn't the Tamagotchi brand, it would be like a no-name Temu ripoff of Tamagotchi. But to be honest, some of those ones were better than the original Tamagotchi. And, you had to look after your virtual pet, feed them, clean them, take care of them, make sure they were sleeping in a good hour. And if you did, they would evolve. And I don't know how long they lived in total, but I was negligent. They'd always die on me.
Teachers banned them in classrooms, but kids hid them in pockets, sneaking in button presses between lessons. Tamagotchis weren't just toys, they were companions. Today, they're retro collectibles, but in the 90s, they were an obsession.
Yeah, I had a handful
Number 28,
of them.
Printed maps. Road trips in the 90s were guided by maps. Later came MapQuest, where you printed pages of directions and hoped you didn't miss an exit. GPS has erased all that stress, but also the fun. Getting lost sometimes led to the best discoveries, and flipping through a map made you feel like a real explorer.
Oh my gosh, that was so dangerous back in the day when you'd have the big wide open map over the steering wheel, barely being able to see over on the roads. That was so freaking dangerous. But we used to get those Refidex books up until the 2000s where you could just flip a book and look at what street. And kudos to me, I'm not generally very good at directions, but I could find my way around. But now that I've been reliant for about 2 decades on a GPS, I could never use a proper map ever again, I don't think.
Number 27. Dial-up internet. Connecting to the internet in the 90s was an event. You'd sit, wait through the static screeches of dial-up, and finally hear, "You've got mail." Pages loaded slowly, pictures crawled onto the screen, and if someone picked up the landline, your connection dropped instantly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Things we take for granted, like if we go on somewhere like GameSpot or any other page with a lot of pictures and everything, even Instagram, they just load up immediately. Boom! But if you just wanted to get like one picture back in the mid-90s, and like one decent quality picture, that thing would take like up to an hour to download. And I mean, we forget and take for granted like how basic the internet was back then and how lucky we have it now,
It
seriously.
was frustrating, but magical. The internet felt new, like discovering a secret world. Today, Wi-Fi gives us everything instantly, but it doesn't carry the same sense of wonder. Number 26, payphones. The payphone was once on every corner. If you were stuck at the mall, missed the bus, or needed to call a ride, you used one. You carried quarters, sometimes a prepaid card. And
Yeah,
the
those,
booth
I
was
tell you what, those phone cards were like all the rage back from the early to mid 90s. And they were highly collectible, actually. Every time we'd get off the bus, we'd all race to the nearest payphone to see who could get there the fastest and look at the pay phone card, I guess you could say, return shoot to see if there was any like phone cards in there. Because they were highly collectible. I actually traded a whole bunch of them in to get my first copy of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, geez. I mean, there are payphones still in Australia. I know a lot of countries don't have them anymore. They're still in Australia, and they're actually free to use for a local call. But most of them kind of end up vandalized and not being used at all, because even like the most brokey of brokies still have like a basic mobile phone these days. So yeah, a lost relic from the past for sure.
Payphones weren't just about convenience, they were lifelines. Today they're nearly extinct, replaced by cell phones. But anyone who used one remembers the smell of coins, the echo of voices inside the booth, and the relief of hearing a loved one answer on the other end. And speaking of memories, wait until number 18. You'll see how we used to carry music everywhere before streaming even existed. Number 25, disposable cameras. Disposable cameras were the Instagram of the 90s. You had one shot per click, no filters, no instant previews. The excitement came later when you developed the film and finally saw the results.
Yeah, for me, the disposable cameras were probably more late 80s, very early 90s for me. I remember they used to have those Fuji or Fujitsu disposable cameras, or the Kodak ones. They were the two big brands, and you could get them from pretty much any supermarket shelf or pharmacy. And you had to be really disciplined. You could buy an add-on flash, or you could take your chances without one, but if you're in a dark room, the picture wouldn't expose properly, and I didn't have the discipline to use the cameras properly, and my film never turned out. It was always a waste of money. I'm so glad we have digital cameras now.
Half the photos were blurry, but that was part of the charm. Digital cameras and smartphones pushed them aside, though they're making small, nostalgic comebacks today. Number 24, typewriter keyboards.
Yeah.
The 90s were the tail end of typewriter-style keyboards, those heavy, mechanical clackers. They made typing feel like a real physical task. Now, we type on flat, silent keys, but many still miss the tactile satisfaction of those old keyboards. Number 23, camcorders. Family vacations, school plays, and birthday parties were all recorded on handheld camcorders. The footage, grainy but heartfelt, became treasured memories. Now, with smartphones in every pocket, camcorders have vanished. But ask anyone who grew up in the 90s, and they'll tell you that there's nothing like watching those shaky VHS home videos.
Yeah, I'd still love a camcorder just with like one of those sort of like retro kind of grainy vibes, if that makes sense. But then you'd have to put it on a cassette tape, I suppose. And so you wouldn't really have anywhere to play that anyway. So yeah, come to think of it, wouldn't make sense. But I just love the nostalgic retro kind of like, I shouldn't say filter, because that's just how it actually looked back then. But yeah, as I said, video media just hit different back then for sure. It just felt so much more personable, I think.
Number 22, Polaroid instant cameras. Polaroids gave you instant memories in your hand. Snap, wait, and the picture developed before your eyes. Back then, every photo felt precious because each click meant using up one of those limited, expensive film sheets. While instant cameras have resurged, the 90s originals hold special nostalgia. But if you think Polaroids were fun, number 15 is going to remind you.
Yeah, as I said, up until I think I bought a Polaroid camera for a gift for someone, I think back in 2012. Don't really know what's been happening with Polaroid cameras since then, but like I said, they did make a comeback.
The one ritual every 90s kid went through before hitting play on movie night. Number 21, CD players. The 90s were the golden age of compact discs.
Yeah.
Owning a CD player meant you could listen to crystal clear music without rewinding tapes. Everyone had a favorite album they carried everywhere. sometimes scratched from too much use. Today, CDs have been replaced by streaming, but opening a CD case and reading the album art is something modern music just doesn't replicate. Number 20. Dot matrix printers. Loud, slow, and messy. The dot matrix printers were the sound of every school and office.
Yeah, I mean, I remember these from school. And, I mean, back then we were still not doing assignments on, like, a computer. They were actually handwritten, and really, computers probably became really more prevalent for assignments, I guess, in the late 90s, early 2000s. But until then, we were, like, handwriting a lot of our assignments and giving them in that way, the old-fashioned way. And, I don't know, back then, these printers were just so messy, so loud. The paper was always tearing and going all over the place. Back in the 90s, using a printer like this kind of seemed it was more trouble than what it was worth unless it was absolutely essential for your business.
The paper had those perforated edges you had to tear off, and the printouts often smudged. Once inkjets and lasers came, dot matrix printers disappeared, taking their iconic screech with them. Number 19. Palm Pilots. Before smartphones, Palm Pilots were cutting edge. They stored contacts, notes, and even calendar reminders with a little stylus. They were marketed as personal digital assistants, but by the mid-2000s, smartphones made them irrelevant. Number 18.
It just makes me think those Palm Pilots might be like, think of your iPhone, but the only thing you can use in your iPhone is like the address book and a notepad. That's what a Palm Pilot would be. And you know what? Back then, we were glad to have it. Oh, we have come a long way.
Personal music tapes. Cassettes were the soundtrack of the early 90s. You made mixtapes for crushes, rewound them endlessly, and listened until the tape wore out. The hiss of the tape and the careful rewind with a pencil are memories that digital music can never replace. By the 2000s, CDs took over, but no playlist will ever feel as personal as a handmade mixtape.
Yeah, you know what? I was using my Sony Walkman probably until 1999. I did also have a Discman as well, but I would be rotating between the two depending on what music I had, because I didn't get my computer until like the year 2000, and by then I could start burning CDs and things like that. But beforehand, the only way to get music I wanted was like to copy it off the radio or get a friend to put it on cassette tape. So I was rotating between the Discman and the Walkman back then, myself
Number
personally.
17, mini discs. Sony hyped mini discs as the future of music. They were compact, rewritable, and cool looking. But they arrived just as CDs and MP3s took off, so they never caught on.
Yeah.
Today, they're mostly collector's items. Still, for a brief moment, owning a mini disc felt like holding a piece of the future in your pocket.
Yeah, I think my friend had a portable mini disc player in high school, and poor guy, I think he was like really excited, think it was like the high-tech technology in the future and everything. Or it might be an expensive collector's item now. You might be able to get something back for it. I'm not sure. How much do these things go for these days?
And speaking of the future, number 11 will surprise you. It's not a gadget at all, but something that literally changed the way we slept through hot summer nights. Number 16, VHS tapes. Every movie night meant rewinding tapes before returning them. VHS defined home entertainment. DVDs, Blu-rays, and streaming killed it. But VHS tapes are still nostalgic treasures.
Yeah, I think this one's maybe shouldn't be on here because, yeah, they were a part of the 90s, but they came in the late 70s, early 80s, and then continued on in the 90s. And I think in the late 90s was when, I guess, DVDs became prevalent, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact date. But, I mean, if we're talking about the VHS experience, fair enough. Because if you go thinking back to 1995, for example, it's Friday night, you want to get some snacks, some movies, some 16-bit games from the Blockbuster. Yeah, it was VHS then, so I guess fair enough. But, I mean, they did come out a lot longer before the 90s. So did Beepers and a few other things on here,
browsing
actually.
Shelves of VHS at the rental store, picking the perfect movie for the weekend. Number 15. Karaoke machines.
Oh, they're still relevant.
Karaoke machines were the heart of 90s sleepovers and parties. Plug in a microphone, sing your heart out badly or beautifully. Passing the mic around with friends created memories as unforgettable as the songs themselves. Today, apps replaced them, but nothing beats the charm of a living room karaoke night.
I mean, what do people do karaoke on now? I mean, I guess they have more sophisticated portable machines. I'm pretty sure you can still go to the Big W in some more populated places in Australia and get a karaoke machine. I'm sure I've seen them. I don't do karaoke because I can't sing my way out of a paper bag. I just like to watch. But anyway.
Number 14, vintage snake games.
Oh,
the
right.
simplest yet most addictive game.
3310
Found
or whatever?
on early handhelds and Nokia phones, Snake kept kids entertained for hours.
My
Beating
balls,
your own
crap.
high score was the ultimate victory back then. Modern gaming apps overshadowed it, but its legacy lives on in mobile gaming history. Number 13, encyclopedias. When school projects came up, kids flipped through encyclopedias. Entire shelves were dedicated to these heavy books.
Yeah, I think Dad gifted me on my birth year a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas, and I think my mum still has them in her house. And they were leather binded and everything, like really good quality. I would keep a hold of these if you ever got them in your youth, because if they're in good condition and they're like decades old, they're probably worth a fortune. I mean, books are sacred after all, right? But I
And
just
owning
love
a
reading
full
through these
set
things.
almost felt like a status symbol in the 90s. Now, Wikipedia has replaced them,
Sure.
making physical
Obsolete.
sets obsolete. Number 12, beeper watches. Imagine a watch that could beep you with a message. That was a beeper watch. It combined two hot gadgets in one. Unfortunately, cell phones made them redundant, and they faded out quickly. Still, in the 90s, owning one made you feel futuristic and important. But
Yeah, but what was the beeper messages for? Was it like just for like alarm clocks and to let you know when you've run for a certain amount of time or something? It just looks like any sort of like old Casio digital watch. I don't know what the difference is. You'll have to let me know.
Stay tuned for number 6, because that one will transport you straight back to the Friday night ritual every 90s family lived for. Number 11, window units for air conditioning. Before sleek split ACS, window units were everywhere.
They still
rattled
exist in
loudly
some
and
places.
dripped water, but they cooled down an entire room. Window ACS were often a summer staple, humming away in apartments and bedrooms.
It just always reminds, it's funny that scene in the 90s, you had that window AC unit and Happy Gilmore accidentally knocked it in his grandma's like retirement home bedroom and it fell on that lady and he's like, oh my god, I think I killed her. And I look, you know, I see those indoor things. I've got these indoor things here now where I live. But I mean, when I fly to Moe's neck of the woods, you still see these on the windows every now and then. I mean, if they do a good job, why get rid of them?
For many, that steady drone became the sound of comfort on hot nights. Now, central systems and modern ACS have replaced them. Number 10, rollerblades and skate rinks. The 90s rollerblading craze was huge. Parks and driveways became racetracks. Weekend hangouts at roller rinks with flashing lights and booming pop hits were the
Good
ultimate
memories, bro.
90s vibe.
You know, I remember skating from like the late 80s to early 90s, and then in the early 90s to mid 90s, roller skating kind of became, I shouldn't say obsolete, but unfashionable because they came out with the rollerblades. And so obviously the roller skates were like 4 wheels, you know, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And then the rollerblades were just like one. It was different style of skating, so you kind of had to learn a new craft all over again. And then sort of by the 2000s, these places fizzled out. And, you know, I went to Skaters Paradise and the Gold Coast. Video games, great food, great company. Oh, the Euro House to skate to in the early 90s. Such great memories. You know, just being, you know, crushing on the hot girl at school that would be there skating with all her friends and just wanting to go up and say hello and... Oh, just all these memories. And then one after the other, all these places started to shut down. And every now and then you'll still see a roller skating rink, but it'll be like dead empty, no one in there. And it's just very sad feeling. It makes you feel very, what's the word, melancholy, I think?
The thrill of gliding with friends made rollerblading more than just a sport. It was a lifestyle. Eventually, skateboards and scooters stole the spotlight.
Yeah.
But rollerblading still screams 90s kid. Number 9, Beanie Babies. Collectors thought these stuffed animals would be worth millions someday. The bubble popped, and most are now worth next to nothing except for nostalgia.
Yeah, I did hear that, because I heard for 1 minute they were worth a fortune. I think my baby niece, well, she's not a baby anymore, she's nearly a grown-ass adult, but at the time, I think she had about 50 of these things. And I remember having a conversation with my sister, yo... I mean, this is in the 2000s, though, or early 2010s. I didn't realize they were around for that long, to be honest. But I was like to my sister, yo, she should sell them and make some pocket money. And even my sister was like, yeah, nah, the bubble popped. So,
These
yeah.
stuffed animals were both toys and investments. This craze defined 90s toy culture.
I didn't realize it went back
Number
that far.
Metal lunchboxes.
Oh, I had the plastic
Every kid
ones.
had a
I
metal
didn't have them.
lunchbox decorated with superheroes, cartoons, or bands. They
Well,
were
that's true. I mean, we used to always get the lunch boxes that would be decorated with, like, superheroes, characters, TV, things like that. But in Australia, we got the plastic ones. Probably because in Australia, you're a bunch of loose cunnies, so if we took metal lunch boxes to school, we'd probably beat each other over the head with them and have a lawsuit for the school. So that's why I'm going to assume we didn't have these. But yes.
both functional and a style statement. Those clunky boxes carried more than just food. They carried personality. Opening one at school felt like showing off a piece of your identity.
So a weapon.
By the late 90s, plastic boxes
See, that's the style we kind of had.
Number 7, floppy disks.
Oh, yeah.
Those square plastic disks held just 1.44 megabytes of data, barely enough for a single photo today.
Yeah, but you could give one of those plastic discs to your friend at school. He'll take it home on his computer and either give you like a copy of like Wolfenstein or I don't know, Jill of the Jungle back in the end, or like SimCity or whatever other little freaking 512K games that he had. K games, maybe that too if that's your thing. But, yeah, it was awesome. But, I mean, you'd have to sometimes give multiple discs. But at least they fit a lot more information than those big flat ones that came out before it. But, yeah, these floppy disks were a big part of my life back then. And I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit sad when I had to give them up. But let's be honest, when CD compact disc came along with rewritables, I mean, that was just a lot more convenient, wasn't it?
But back then, floppy disks carried school projects, games, and sometimes your entire digital life.
Yeah.
USB drives replaced them, and now cloud storage has made them ancient history. And don't go anywhere because number 1 is going to make you remember how awkward calling your friends used to be.
Okay.
Number 6, Blockbuster video membership cards. Friday nights meant going to Blockbuster, browsing shelves, and grabbing snacks. That little membership card was your ticket to entertainment. Today, only one Blockbuster remains, and streaming has erased the ritual of movie rentals for
You know, Blockbuster was my life, and other video stores like Video Easy, Video Flicks, Movies for You in Australia for games, DVDs, VHS. And then by the, I guess you could say, early 2000s, I stopped. And then I was feeling nostalgic, and there was still a few video stores left. So I remember I tried to get a membership, I think, to a Civic Video when I was in like 2007 or 2008. And the lady there didn't give it to me because she thought I looked like riffraff. Jeez, that's going back. Jeez, man, did I really look like I was that much of a thug or something? I looked like riffraff. She's like, oh, you need multiple forms of ID. I was like thinking, I'm pretty sure it's not that hard to start an account at a video store. But yeah, she just didn't want me. Hey, you know what? You obviously needed the business. Your loss. But whatever.
Number 5, handheld video game consoles. Before smartphones ruled gaming, kids carried around Game Boys and Sega handhelds everywhere. The graphics were simple, but the joy of swapping cartridges with friends was unbeatable.
Tiger
Their
Electronics.
chunky cartridges and pixelated screens may seem outdated now, but back then, they were every kid's pride.
Oh man, there's such a big resurgence though, like Rogue Ally, Steam Deck, the various little retro consoles that you can get that actually fit in the pocket now, the Nintendo Switch. I think there is still a big handheld console market out there. It's just a lot of people are very busy on the go, and it's just easy for them to like casually play a game on their phone. But if I'm traveling, catching a plane, or just trying to kill 30 minutes while my girl is cooking dinner or having a shower or whatever, I'm going to pull out the Steam Deck and I'm going to remind myself of the great memories I had 20 years beforehand playing handheld games. Just something, sometimes you just need to
Number
scratch
4,
that itch.
portable CD Walkman. Nothing said 90s cool like a Discman in your backpack.
Yeah, late
Skipping CDs
90s.
while walking was a constant struggle, but it was the height of portable music before MP3 players
That's a
arrived.
chunky one, isn't
You'd
it?
carry around a whole
Janet
stack
Jackson
of
CD?
CDs in a bulky
All right,
case,
cool.
picking the perfect album for the day, like it was a ritual. Number 3, CRT televisions.
This is something I really took for granted because I was a little bit of an entitled little shithead when I was younger, and from the late teens until like my late 20s, whenever my grandmother upgraded a CRTV, she would always give me the old one, right? And I just used to have them just all over the place, and you just couldn't get rid of them. And now more than anything, I wish I still had one for retro gaming, right? Apparently it's really hard to find one in working order, especially since there's not really people out there that really make a specialty of repairing them anymore. So yeah, big memory. I miss them very much. Very much.
These TVs were heavy, boxy, and sometimes took two people to move.
You had to be like Big
Channels
Eddie
were
Hall to
limited,
move it around.
And if you wanted to change one, you actually had to press a button on the TV itself. And who could forget the static buzz and fuzzy screen when the antenna wasn't angled just right? Number 2, slap bracelets.
Oh my gosh, these things were terrible. They don't. You'd find slap bracelets in like every single freaking like dollar store, Crazy Clark's, places like that. That was such a big fad. I wasn't really so interested in it myself, but my grandmother used to always give them to me as a gift whenever she just wanted to spoil me and give me some knickknacks, you know what I mean? Because they'd have the boys and the girls ones. But I would always break them after 2 or 3 uses. They wouldn't even work anymore because I was just so clumsy and heavy-handed. But yeah, I remember this craze.
A thin strip of metal wrapped in colorful fabric that snapped around your wrist. They were fun, addictive, and slightly dangerous, but every kid wanted one. Some schools even banned them after kids started using them a little too roughly. Number 1, phone books and landlines. Remember
the yellow
flipping
pages.
through giant yellow pages to find a number? Or calling a friend's house and hoping their parents didn't pick up. Landlines and phone books were part of everyday life before smartphones erased them.
Yeah, but you guys in the 90s were still lucky to have those portable digital phones with the touch buttons and everything. That was still better than what we had in the 80s with those rotary phones. Don't forget, I'm a little bit older than you 90s kids. I was an 80s and 90s kid, but I digress. Yes, these touch phones, I mean, look, it's just always more convenient to have a mobile phone now, I get it, but these weren't so bad. I'd rather use these over a rotary any day of the week.
The 90s may be gone, but they live on in our memories. Each of these things, from floppy disks to beepers, wasn't just an object, but a piece of life. They remind us of a slower, less connected time when patience was part of everyday living. And maybe that's why we remember them with so much fondness. Because it wasn't just about the technology or the trends, it was about the moments we lived with them.
Yeah, hey, failed and forgotten, that was a great video. Please make sure you're giving them a sub, and give us a sub as well. Let us know what other 90s memories you think should have been on this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.